I've just seen so many practitioners shifting their practice to this more whole body approach, and the excitement of seeing the change in a patient's healing after implementing some of this work is just so powerful. And I feel like hearing those stories, because I remember when I first got started, when we would see like the tissue look so much better, or our patient was so much healthier and felt so much better. So exciting.
Longevity isn't luck, folks. It's a lifestyle built on habits, culture, and intention. Welcome to Age with Intention podcast, where we explore how people around the world live longer, they think clearer, and they age with purpose. So today's episode is about something powerful because we're diving into something that most people overlook, really. I even overlooked that. And that may influence everything from energy and sleep patterns, right? Hormones, inflammation, I know that, digestion, and nervous system function. And that's the mouth, which is a big concern to many people. And I love how today's guest offers a unique lens by bridging the gap between biological dentistry, and we'll talk about what that is, and whole body health. So this conversation isn't just about, dentistry or dealing with practitioners in dentistry. It's for anyone who has ever felt that they're doing everything right. For example, eating, they're working out, taking supplements, seeing a specialist everywhere, and still they can't figure out what's going on with the body. Okay, so if you're that person, navigating through fatigue, navigating through inflammation, we have a lot of hormonal imbalances as well, brain fog, you're tired, you got chronic stress. Today's conversation may open the doors for you. So the oral cavity is often referred to as a second microbiome of the body, and what happens there doesn't stay there. I know that we have canals that even go all the way to the heart. Now, I'm not an expert in this, so we're going to have today's guest, Amber White, talk to us about this. So, Amber, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today, Art. I'm excited to dive into this with you.
Oh, I'm very excited to have you. So that's great. I'm dying to find out the work you do. Is you have a manual that just came out, but I'm also interested in the oral health that you work with. But it's also, you work with the microbiome testing, right? Something like that, HTMA testing, the breath work you do, the myofunctional therapy. I'd like to know more about that. And that's your holistic approach, which is very exciting to find out how you put all that together, right, in a burrito. So welcome again. And I like to start by asking you about your story. How did you get here? What first drew you into this work? Was there a moment in life that you said, oh my God, I'm either neglecting my gums or my teeth. I should get deeper into this. How did you get started?
Yeah, so I got started, I went to dental hygiene school. Well, first I started in psychology, right? Because I wanted to help people. And then, after some time in that field and some time in the restaurant business, figuring out what to do with my life, I really had always been interested in oral health and dentistry. And I always had, I had cavities as a child. I had different things going on, but it was always a place that I felt like you were taken care of, right, when going to the dentist. So later I went to school for dental hygiene, the traditional path, and I started working in a few different practices. And I feel like it was pretty early on that I started to notice that I was seeing the same thing over and over again, right? Patients were coming back for their recall visits every 3, 4, 6 months. And they were presenting the exact same way. They had the same generalized inflammation. They had the same buildup on their teeth, right? We had the same bleeding response. But the tools I had at the time didn't really allow me to treat them more holistically or really look at the whole body. So I started going to different courses, really looking into, more nutrition, because that was something I already had dove into. And then I just happened to come across a biological, bioregulatory, medical, and dental clinic that was opening in my area. And I feel like it was almost like divine timing that I was able to get a position in this practice. And there was no turning back. Once I started to understand these different connections, I needed to know everything.
That's awesome. And when did you realize, this information could be put together in of course, like a course, right? Or in a coaching manual. How soon did that come, or did it take you a while?
Yeah, so it took me a little while. So that practice that I started at, that biological practice, I started as a hygienist and I ended up managing that practice for 4 years. So it was a startup. I had incredible mentors. I did a ton of coursework myself, becoming a holistic health practitioner, diving into hormones, mineral testing, just so many different things, traveling around the world to learn from some of the best in the field. And like I said, I was there for 4 years, and about 4 years ago, I started my own business, really working kind of more supportive behind the scenes, helping practices get set up. And it wasn't until last year that I decided I need to reach more people with this
Okay.
information, because working one on one, I can get a lot done
Yes.
with one practice. But I remember what it was like when I first got started in biological dentistry, and I remember the paradigm shift and just the overflow of information and just wanting to know everything. So, my goal in creating a course and a manual was to be able to get this information to more people, really help them to be able to integrate it into their practice in real time. Because so many times, if we're in the health space, we take all these courses and then we get back to practice. We're like, how do I implement everything? How do I
Yeah,
integrate what I
that's
learned?
exactly what I wanted to ask you because it does
Yeah.
get really tricky.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that book, that new manual that you have. So what inspired you to create that, and who is it for? Because I know it's for practitioners, but the average person could read that too and take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's designed for practitioners. So when I created my course Beyond the Mouth, in that course we have, modules that we go through, but in every module we have resources upon resources upon resources that we can actually use. And they're all designed to be able to be used chairside in the operatory for practitioners. This could be dental or other health practitioners, to be able to start to have different conversations with patients, start to understand these different layers. And when we're all learning so much and there's so much new information coming out, it's more to be able to look at in real time. Okay, so we see inflammation, we see bleeding response, we have a patient that's getting cavities frequently or has gum
Mhm.
disease, right? Now we can actually look at this and go, okay, so what is the actual root cause? Can we look at hormones? Can we look at mineral imbalances? You know, how do we actually start to look at the mouth as this entry gateway into the body? How can we actually start to look at this differently? And I think the same thing with patients. It's really starting to kind of have this shift that the mouth is isolated and it's not affecting anything else, right? So it really goes into how we can actually take a whole body, comprehensive, and individualized approach to care.
Yes, because I know it must help people understand their own bodies through a completely different lens. First of all, because it's going to connect, like you said, root cause, right? So that's going to help a lot. Let's unpack this, the oral system connection. You mentioned biological dentistry. From what I understand, biological dentistry is for me because I don't go deep into it, but it's helping me remove my mercury from my teeth. That's what I've heard because I started doing some research. I want to take the mercury out of my I have a few, three of them, but still it's a concern. We'll talk about that later. But let's unpack it. How do you see the mouth influencing? Because you mentioned mineral balance, right? Hormonal. So how do you see the mouth influencing that? The minerals, the hormonal health, the nervous system as well, right? Chronic inflammation, which we have a big issue with.
Yeah, so the mouth is really connected to everything else in the body, right? When we think about biological dentistry, we're thinking about how one system affects the other. So if we have imbalances in our mouth, we're going to have imbalances in other areas of our body, right? If we have chronic low-grade inflammation in our mouth, that's either going to directly affect inflammation in our body or vice versa, right? That inflammation can be coming systemically and presenting in the mouth. So it kind of is this bidirectional relation. But when we think about biological dentistry, of course, we do think about the materials that are placed in the mouth and how they have an impact on the body. So, like you mentioned, the mercury fillings, right? Of course, there's no safe place anywhere, especially in the body, for mercury, right? We know it's toxic, right? And so a biological dentist would remove those fillings following a smart or safe protocol where, really understanding how well can you actually clear those heavy metals from your body, making sure your drainage pathways are open, making sure that you are on a very specific supplement protocol, making sure that, you know, everything on the body is covered, we're not recirculating that mercury into the body because we know mercury has an affinity for different organ systems of the body. So if we do it unsafely, we could feel a lot worse after. But the other thing with biological dentistry is really what is the root cause, right? When you're working in the field, a lot of times it's, okay, there's a cavity, right? A person has a cavity, we're going to fill that tooth. Or we have periodontal disease, we're going to do this periodontal therapy and we're going to treat that. But the real question becomes, why did this person become susceptible to getting
Right.
a cavity or to having gum disease, having periodontal disease? So it really is looking deeper at the why and getting to the root cause of what's causing that. Because for a long time, we've been kind of under the impression that cavities are because of sugar, right? And that's kind of like the
Exactly.
big culprit. There's a lot of different reasons that we could have them, right? So we could have mineral imbalances because we think about how minerals are one of the biggest components of our tooth structure, right? They make up 97% of our enamel. We also think about mouth breathing, which changes the pH of our saliva, leads us to be more prone to cavities. We can also think of oral microbiome balance, right? If we have the bacteria out of balance in the mouth and we have more opportunistic pathogens that are cariogenic, that cause cavities, right? That's going to be an issue. So instead of just, okay, we have this problem, we're going to fix it, it's, okay, we have this problem. Why did this start? How can we prevent this from happening again in the future?
Wow, that's great. And how, my question is, because I'm thinking like, how's the, I guess the industry, the dentistry industry taking this? Because, I think they're so focused in the reductionist system that they were taught, and they don't tend to have time to look at the outside of, bringing in some holistic approach really to dentistry. How do you approach them, and how are they taking it? Do you get rejected a lot by some, or how does it work?
Yeah, I think it's definitely, I think it's on the rise. I think it's the future of the field. I really do. And I think that a lot of people are more open to it. I think, of course, it like with anything, with any kind of movement or any kind of change to a field, there's going to be some resistance. So my course is not necessarily for everyone, but what I will say is that I've had 100 people from all over the world go through this course. So it's not just in the USA, right? I have 16 different countries that have people from 16 different countries that have gone through my course. So I
That's
really
awesome.
do think it is the way of the future. And it is just being able to, I'm sure you know, right? Like accept new information, look at new research, and shift our thought process around it. It's really easy to just know what we know and stay in that lane. But you really always have to be learning and bringing in new ideas, new concepts as new research happens, as new you see things clinically, right? Not everything's in the research. It's in the moment, right? What you see
Right.
change for a patient. So,
Yeah, that's great because there's several fascinating tools also that we use in holistic health, right? And you mentioned the minerals, so you're doing that. What's HTMA for people that don't understand? I know it's hair analysis, but give us a little bit of information on that. How do you use that? And the oral micro, what is it? The oral microbiome test? Tell us
yeah.
about those two.
Yeah, sure. So HTMA, hair tissue mineral analysis testing. So it's actually a hair sample that looks at the mineral status of the body. It also, minerals are these spark plugs for the body. It's what gives us energy. It's what supports our hormones, supports remineralization, all of these different things. It also looks at our stress response, how well we can heal. And that's such a big component to the work that I do is does the body have the capacity to heal, right?
Right.
How can we actually prepare it for treatment, right? And in dentistry, there's a lot of different things that we do that require the body to have good detoxification, right? But we also need a regulated nervous system, a resilient nervous system. And we know a lot of people have fear around dentistry or trauma around dentistry. But if we're actually not treating a patient in parasympathetic mode, they're going to struggle to heal. So, when we look at HTMA testing, of course, it's giving us like a mineral profile. So like I said, 97% of enamel is made of hydroxyapatite, which is calcium and phosphate. We also need magnesium to drive those minerals into the teeth, right? So when we look at a mineral test, we can see, does this patient have enough bioavailable calcium? Is it actually being directed into the teeth and bones? Do they have enough phosphate, right? If they don't have enough phosphate, what does their digestion look like? because we're getting that primarily from our whole food animal protein sources. So if we can't digest, absorb, and assimilate those nutrients, we're not going to have enough phosphate in our saliva to remineralize our teeth. So we always are thinking about all these different layers. We think with calcium too, like those two minerals are really big, but we also need magnesium, D3, K2 to regulate those minerals. So that's a big piece of it. But on the mineral test also, we can see what does the thyroid look like, the adrenal glands, the nervous system, blood sugar regulation, stress response, immune system at a cellular level. There's so much more than, we can look at lab testing and that gives us a lot of information, but that gives us a snapshot in time where mineral testing will give us a 3-month average of what's happening in the body. So it gives us a little bit more comprehensive look. And then we can say, for example, the thyroid gland, major energy gland of the body. If that is suppressed, even, subclinically, cellularly, we're not going to have the energy to heal. We're going to have a delayed healing response. So there's a lot of different things with that test we can look at. It also looks at our body's ability to detoxify. And when we think about something like smart mercury removal, we want to make sure that we can actually clear what we're going to stir up when we are going to remove that. So it really gives us this whole picture. I use that with clients. In my course, I teach practitioners how to use that with their patients so we can really take the whole body approach to care.
Yes, yes.
Salivary testing, yeah, is another test that we can do that's going to look at the bacterial profile of the mouth, right? We have over 700 species of bacteria in the mouth, but they're not all bad, right? The goal is to always have homeostasis or a balance. And so if we use something like, say, antiseptic mouthwashes, right? You hear a lot about that now, I feel like. We're wiping out 99% of the bacteria. Or if you've been on antibiotics frequently, we're wiping out all the bacteria. But we have beneficial bacteria that prevent cavities, that prevent inflammation, that prevent gum disease. That's why a lot of these things come up, because we're wiping out all the good bacteria. And when we do that, that gives a rise to those opportunistic pathogenic bacteria to multiply. So I think any of this testing can be so powerful and really like individualizing it all to the patient or client.
Yeah, and it's very important for our audience to realize this, because how many times do we hear it? I did blood work. I went to the doctor, did blood work, and they didn't find anything. I just have, and right away they focus, my cholesterol's a little high, but okay, let's stop here. So we need to go deeper. Yes, I realize doctor's not going to, refer you to an HTMA test for hair analysis, but you need to go in yourself and do it. Some insurances don't pay for it. I understand people are, they refuse to pay for a test. But listen, it gives you so much information. It's completely worth it. The investment you're putting into it, it's going to give you so much more. Like you said, we're going into a cellular level, and it's going to explain to you, here it is. Most people are deficient in magnesium, and you're one of them. Here it is, right? Or, the heavy metals like for example, mercury, right? Lead, all that's going to show up there. And as you mentioned, the thyroid, which most women, right, are having issues with that. It's going to slow down your metabolism. And that's what we have so many problems with, metabolic dysfunction. So it's important to see this on, and you could break it down. Like you say, you help them actually break it down, even practitioners. Okay, this means this is what we could do. And you start connecting the dots easier because it's a 3-month analysis of your body, what's going on, not just superficial. Here's what's running through your blood today. I don't want that. That's why I usually just go into these deeper analysis, like I use the micronutrient, which is harder because you have to, you have to pull out blood. Like I think you have to use like two of the pines there, and then you have to send it in. It takes a while for them to get it back. The hair analysis is a lot easier, if you ask me, and you get it back faster, and then you can break it down easier. I love these tests now. They're getting fancier too, like color coded, right? It
Yep.
makes it a lot easier. So yeah, I think it's super important to use that HTMA test. And then you mentioned, did you talk about the microbiome testing one too, or?
Yeah, the salivary testing. So
Oh,
that
so
looks at,
that's from the
yeah.
saliva.
hmm
Okay. Oh, well, that's easy. And what about the myofunctional therapy? What's that about?
Yeah, functional therapy really is all about the muscles of the face and neck, the fascia, right? So many people, there's really a big problem right now with mouth breathing and tongue posture and really like the change of the shape of our face over time. I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily an expert in airway and sleep dentistry, but there are so many people that this is their field. And it really is about how can we have ideal function? How can we have ideal breath, sleep, right? And so it is, myofunctional therapy really is working on strengthening the muscles of the head and neck, of the tongue, to have that ideal tongue posture, to have that proper lip seal, right? To have that optimal nasal breathing. And so it is exercises that we can do at home. You can work with a practitioner who will work with you specifically on building an exercise protocol for you, a program. And this is something, especially if you're listening and you have children, this is something that you can start pretty early with children to really set them up for success in the future. So it really is a powerful, powerful tool. You can get lots
Yes,
of videos
I've
online.
seen. I read a book, The Oxygen Advantage. Have you ever read that book? That
Hmm.
guy, Patrick, I have a hard time saying his last name, McKeon or something like that. Sorry if I
Yeah.
butchered his name, but he wrote a book and he based it on, I know the Buteyko technique, the Russian doctor Buteyko,
Yep.
right? And in one of the sections, he says about that the natives here in America, they used to, that, European came over, he was observing them, they let him stay with them, with the tribe, and he noticed how the moms would like close the babies' mouths. So it was a practice where they started, teaching them early how to, even when they're sleeping, breathe through the nose. And he was fascinated about it because he was saying that he would notice with the Europeans coming over, a lot of mouth breathers and notice a lot of issues. That's way back in the 1700s. So it's been known. And even in Ayurveda, since that's what I practice, you could read the books, the old texts from yogis, and they talk about nostril breathing all the time. So it is fascinating. I did started practicing back in 2000. I think I started helping people with that Buteyko breathing technique. I'm not sure if it's called breathing technique or method, but it's Buteyko. I'll
Yeah.
put it down here for people to know. And it's a Russian physician who pretty much was using it for many many years in his practice. I'm not sure if he's still alive or not, but Patrick, he brought it back, and his book is nice. It's powerful because he does break down the exercises that you were saying. There are exercises we could do because I know I tell people that, hey, you should start practicing, because I'll see them exercise and their mouth breathing, and they're like, no, I can't do that anymore. My nostrils are clogged for life. I'm a mouth breather. It's hard to convince some people to say, no, but no, I'm telling you, okay, I'll let it go from that's it. I tried it, but people really do believe that, no, that's it. I'm a mouth breather from now on. I can't breathe through my nose. I have to do. They don't think like, okay, there are exercises I could do, just like working out. Okay, I am so weak in my core, for example, most of us, right? You're not exercising, you're just sitting down. So your core is very weak. You're going to stand up and do any movements. You're going to feel your core's not activating. It's not triggering because it's asleep. Same thing with our nostril airway. We could wake that up again. And I've seen the exercises that Patrick talks about. I've had some people do it. Knock on wood, I don't have any issues. I'm a nostril breather. I guess my mom taught me well. I don't know, but I've never been a mouth breather, which is great. But there's so many people, and I've noticed it on the youth with the mouth breathing. What about you? Have you noticed that? I mean, it's with everybody. It's crazy.
It's yeah, it's become a huge problem across the board. Really, our diets have changed over time. So if you ever look into like Weston Price, really studied this, how we used to have these wide, right, wide
Mhm.
smiles, built jaws, and now we're just like narrower and narrower, which is really causing a lot of airway dysfunction, low tongue posture, mouth breathing, because we're not really chewing our food anymore, right? You see like kids are having soft pouches or soft foods, right? We need to be chewing. Our bodies are innately designed. They are so intelligently designed. And so like saying I'm just a mouth breather, right? We're designed to breathe through our nose, right? We're meant to chew our food. Our teeth are meant to be aligned, right? And so it is getting back to the basics, right? The foundations of health and thinking about what was our body designed to do. Our bodies are always designed to self regulate and heal when they have the environment, the information, the tools to do so. And so we have to think about back to like, how is my body actually designed, right? How everything works together. And that's why like the mouth plays such a role in this, because if we have imbalance in one area, we're going to have imbalances other places, right? So if we're mouth breathing, right, we're depleting nitric oxide bioavailability, right, which regulates our circulation. So we could see increased blood pressure, more risk of cardiovascular disease, right? We could see more links to erectile dysfunction, poor circulation. Like these are all connections that are studied. And so it's not just one thing, right? If we have an imbalance or dysregulation in one place, it's affecting other areas. So it's not just drying out our tissues, causing
Right.
inflammation, right? We're stuffy, like it's affecting other systems. Everything kind of has like this trickle effect. So we have to think if we have something out of balance in one place, we need to address that so we can bring balance to the rest of our body and allow it to self-regulate and heal.
Right. That makes a lot of sense because I know they talk about animals too. What animal do you see that's a mouth breather, right? Have you seen that? Like, oh, that's true. Well, the dogs have that, their mouth open, right? But that's different because they need
Yeah.
the 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 tongue, right? Something about the tongue. I'm not an expert I'm not a veterinarian or anything, but really it's like, yes, we need to get back to thinking mouth breathing is not correct. Let's focus on starting to breathe through the nose, and that's going to help the balance, right, of the small microbiome, we call it, right? The oral health. It's amazing how it will just disrupt the bacteria, like you said, and it'll just create chaos just by the mouth breathing. I mean, it's 8 hours of sleep mostly. That's a long time of
Yeah.
just having that open and bringing a lot of problems and a lot of issues. So in your manual, do you have therapies discussing this, or what's exactly in your manual that you talk about?
Yeah. So with the breathing and airway exercises, I don't necessarily have a lot of myo exercises in the manual. I feel like that's something really important to work with a practitioner on. I do in the manual go deeper into mineral imbalances, what type of nutrition to bring in when we see deficiencies in certain areas, what we can look at in the mouth that can reflect to us hormonal imbalances. Also thinking about the medications that we're taking. We
That's
know
true.
that, right, 60% of people have one chronic disease, I think it is. 40% have two. I think that's the statistic.
Yeah.
And so they're on medications, and they're most of them aren't just on one, they're on multiple medications. But when we think about them, of course, medications can be life-saving. But they can also be a band-aid, and they can also none of them come without a side effect. And a
Right.
lot of those side effects are they deplete key nutrients in the body, right? So in the manual, I go through that. What are these common medications that we're taking, and what is it actually depleting the body of, and how does that actually show up in the mouth? So you mentioned cholesterol, right? That is, one of the most popular medications we see people on are statins. Statins come with a list of side effects, but they also come with a list of depletions, right? CoQ10, zinc, selenium are the top three that get depleted with statins, right? So what are we going to see in the mouth? We're going to see more bleeding response. We're going to see more inflammation. We're going to see delayed healing because of a impaired immune response, right? We know selenium helps to regulate thyroid function. So we're potentially going to see, a depletion in or suboptimal thyroid function, which would lead to delayed healing in the mouth. So we think of delayed healing, it's not just after surgery. Delayed healing is the tissue is inflamed. Tissue cannot, it should be snug around your tooth. There shouldn't be bleeding response or inflammation. So delayed healing would be those patients who have chronic low-grade inflammation, chronic bleeding response, and they're not getting better even though they're doing all the right things. They're brushing, they're flossing, they're doing the habits, but they still have that response, right? That's a delayed healing response. It's not just we did a surgery, we removed this tooth or infection, and that's not healing. It's really, do we have that?
Yeah, and I know a lot of people go into for a cleanse, deep cleanse, and that's a lot of bleeding because they're when they're cleaning, it's a lot of bleeding that's happening. Yeah, it feels great after the cleaning part, but you're still going to be bleeding from the gums after, right? It's not removing the problem because like you say, you're deficient. You need the selenium, you need the CoQ10, you need all that. And no one tells us really. I mean, I've gone to the dentist. One of them told me I need a deep cleanse. Then I went to the second one and said, no, you're fine. We'll just do the regular. So who knows how they work, but I did the cleanse, and he did tell me, you are bleeding a little bit on this left side. Let's keep an eye on it. But never did he tell me, hey, have you checked, deficiencies like in your gut? Maybe you're not receiving enough of the white blood cells because you're low in selenium or the CoQ10. It's hugely important. All that we don't cover, or they never cover, and that's very important to know. So that's why, like I said, I think, yeah, the average person should really take a look at the manual and say, I should talk to my doctor about this or my dentist about this so that we could start working on a plan, making them part of my dream team. I like to call it a dream team. If you're going to have a doctor, they got to be on your team. Like, okay, this is me. Here's what I've learned about myself. And that's what I practice. I try to tell people, let's first start with the foundation and getting to know who you are, your bioindividuality, which is Ayurveda. We practice a lot. What of these energy forces, which one are you more dominant in, which is, we call it fire, water, air. And in Greek mythology, they have the same thing. But once you find out about your strengths and your weaknesses with your bioindividuality, then you could set up a good game plan with your team, which is your primary doctor, your dentist, whether it's an eye doctor, every specialty. Now they could work with you. Oh, I really know you, Art, because you brought your game plan here. Like, this is you. Okay, I really understand you. Okay, well, yeah, we should use this for you instead. And then it just works much better. And I have that experience because for me, what happened was I developed atrial fibrillation in 2021. And I did my own analysis with my cardiologist. I went over and I told, look, I'm an Ayurveda practitioner. He goes, really? My wife's an Ayurveda practitioner. Oh, beautiful. Okay, so she knows, right? I'm going to, it's obviously stress overload. I'm going to blame it on the 5G tower that he just placed by my house over here. But I know it's never a singular thing on everything, right? So I wasn't just blaming the 5G tower, but I was like, that was basically the straw that broke the camel's back, because I was already feeling a lot of stress with, I didn't take any of the pokes, but just being, isolated. We were all isolated. And then, so much on the internet, the Wi-Fi, the new smart meter they put in my house, and the tower came in, and it just broke me. So as soon as I removed stuff, I removed the Wi-Fi. I went landline. I did so many things. I covered the smart meter with some shield that everything helped. I avoided the medication that my cardiologist wanted me to take. I go, just give me time here. I just want to make sure my heart was fine. Well, let's do all the work. Let's check the heart. And, they do all of the analysis. Says your heart's fine. It's just, it's the electrical. I go, exactly. The electrical. We're electrical beings, electrical magnetic beings. So let's fix the electrical. I don't want to take your blood thinners, your, beta blockers and all this stuff you wanted to give me for life. Let's give it time. So I went back, I think 2 months. It was like 8 weeks. No more atrial fibrillation. He goes, okay, let's give it a little more time. Let's come back in 6 months. Went back, no more atrial fibrillation. Wow, what'd you do? Okay, well, I'm going to tell you, I removed things. I didn't add stuff, right? I removed things, and then I made sure my minerals I noticed that my magnesium was low. So that I had and most of us, by the way, in case people are listening, most of us, our magnesium is low because it's no longer in the soil. So don't be surprised when you find out that your magnesium is low. So I had to take it up a notch with that. And I use other, like ashwagandha and stuff to control my nervous system, because I was like completely out of whack. And knock on wood, it's been, 5 years now since atrial fibrillation disappeared. And what do they tell you? Oh no, once you get atrial fibrillation, it's with you for life. No, it's not. Over my dead body. But anyhow, that's my experience. I know it's never one single thing. You got to look into deeper, the root cause, like the work that you do, right? So detoxification support, the drainage that's going on, because, obviously I wasn't draining correctly. I was, having so much toxins in me, emotional toxins too. Do you ever cover that as well with your clients?
Always. There's always an emotional component. But I love what you said, because it's what everyone needs to hear, is that you have to be your own advocate for your health, right? And you have to be able to get involved in your health. I feel like a lot of people can be like really passive and just listen to what their recommendations are, but you know your body better than anybody else does, right? And there's a mental, emotional, spiritual, physical component to health. And so many people I see, and we can even see it on mineral testing, right, where they're emotionally shut down. They're not
Yes.
processing emotions, right? And a lot of times we can see displacement of minerals because of that, right? After trauma, grief, we all have experiences like that. But if we don't process emotions, right, we're going to get sick eventually. It's going to catch up to us eventually. And I think there's always a component when I work with clients one on one. There's tears sometimes, right? Because
Hmm.
as we're working on our health, we learn more, we process more, we go through more. And we really always have to take that whole approach, right? It's never just physical. I've never given a plan that is just take these supplements and go on your way, right? It's always we need to think about the nervous system. We need to think about mental, emotional, spiritual health. We need to think about joy, right? Are you actually enjoying your life?
Exactly.
Who are you surrounding yourself with?
Hmm.
Right? Are you around people that bring out the best in you, that make you the happiest? Right? So, I mean, I talk about everything when it comes to health working with clients because we need to have it all, right? We need to always be like making sure we're supported on all these different levels. So, yes, I definitely bring it in. Hopefully, that long answer to your question, but yes.
No, yeah, it's very important. And I'm happy to hear that you do say that and you do practice that with your clients because how many are out there? I'm not going to name anybody, but that they're just, like you said, they're just, here's a supplement or here's this protocol. Go for it. You too. Everyone, line up. Here's a protocol. No one ever sits down with someone, or I mean, we do, you do, and I used to when I was one-on-ones. I no longer do one-on-ones, but it's so important. You sit down, and yeah, you're gonna feel like you're a psychologist because they're gonna. But if listen, if you're having someone sit down with you and they're releasing their emotions and they have tears in their eye, something good's happening. They're opening up, and this is when you're gonna find out. You're gonna go deeper, and you're gonna have a better connection with that individual to understand them because, like you said, no one knows your body more than you. So once you start letting people know your emotional problems, everyone has traumas somehow, somewhere. We all have them, and once we understand where that person is coming from, then we could address. Okay, you know, I am a specialist in like for yourself. I'm a specialist in the oral, but if I don't know about the digestive system, if I don't know about your liver, if I don't know about the wholeness of the body, then I'm really not going to be able to help you because I'm here we go. Singular stuff, right? Or reduction of stuff. Oh, you're bleeding here? Well, let's just give you this, antibiotic here. Boom, done. No, you're going deeper. And that's what we need to see more of. That's why I wanted to bring you on because it's important for people to know, no, look, she has this understanding because she goes whole body, right? You're pretty much putting everything together. And like you said, spiritual, emotional, the mental health part of it, not just the physical. We need more of that. That's what I believe. So I'm glad you're on here and you're sharing that. That's great.
Yeah, I definitely think we need more of that. There's so much when it comes to our health and even working with practitioners too, right? There's so much in this entrepreneurial or business owner journey where like things come up and we need to heal. So I feel like no matter if my client is someone I'm working with on their health or I'm working with a practitioner who's shifting their practice to the more whole body approach, there's always going to be some healing component to the conversation because we're all going through this life. We all have these experiences. So it is always making sure that we can process things, right? Process physical, emotional, mental, all the things. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just because you're a practitioner in the field of health and wellness or dentistry, whatever, everyone has their issues. And you could be doing everything right. You think you're doing everything right. We're not perfect. Something pops up. Oh my gosh. I'm over here talking about, health and wellness or fitness because I was for a long time a fitness instructor. And I have a hip issue where I tried everything. Believe me, I went with the peptides. Never should have tried that. It no doesn't work. And I even went to Mexico for the stem cells, which I believe in. I saw a lot of great results in it, but mine was too late. So
mhm.
I did the hip surgery now today, 2 months ago, exactly, April 16th. And it's going well, but I destroyed my gut. Antibiotics kicked in, anesthesia. So imagine my gut microbiome, my oral microbiome, and I noticed something. I got some inflammation on this left side. I haven't had any issues with teeth, but just recently I have inflammation on this side of the gum on the left side. Like, what did I? And I right away start thinking, did I eat popcorn and it went up there and, stuff like that? And I'm like, no. But here you are talking to me about deficiencies. So here we are. Maybe I need to recheck myself with mineral, and I'm going to probably see the selenium imbalance, right? Magnesium. So this is something that we all need to take care of after we take antibiotics. And so many people take antibiotics for the smallest things. Unfortunately, me, I had to do a huge surgery here. But see, that makes a lot of sense to me. It's not going to be just one thing for me. So what would you suggest if someone's like, all of a sudden they come out of surgery, they had antibiotics, and they're telling you, hey, my gums are bleeding now. And they weren't.
Yeah. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would prep your body for surgery, right? We would look at this information ahead of time, come up with a plan to prepare your body,
Yeah.
right? But afterwards, say you are seeing changes afterwards, we want to get some information, right? We might want to get some blood work. We might want to do some mineral testing to see what's going on because we think about stress on the body. A surgery is a major stress on the body, right? So
Major
we
trauma.
know
Yeah.
if there's stress on the body, we're going to see things shift. We're going to see imbalances. So I would definitely say getting that type of information to know how well your body can heal. Nervous system's always going to play a role here, right? What else can we bring in to stimulate the body's healing capacity? But I would definitely get information, some testing. If we see like things happen, then I would say, let's figure out what the body actually needs. What is it asking for? Right? Because we think about the terrain, right? The terrain is what supports
Yes.
healing. It's the environment that, we live inside of. And so we need to optimize the terrain, right? There's shifts and imbalances, right? So I would say definitely testing, definitely bringing in some additional healing modalities. Red light therapy, my favorite one, probably. But so many different things to regulate the nervous system. Yeah, so there's a lot there, but I think definitely optimizing some of those key nutrients, making sure we're supporting the nervous system, making sure we're bringing in different things. We're repopulating good bacteria. We're getting probiotic, prebiotic rich foods. Usually after an antibiotic, we're going to want to bring in some probiotics to repopulate. So it just depends like where things are showing up and how we can bring balance back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, re-inoculating, right?
Hmm.
Because we have to bring back that balance of the bacterias and so much more. You mentioned biohacks. Let's talk about that. Do you use any biohacks with your clients or yourself? Red light therapy. I've seen those lights that go in the mouth. Do you use that? I haven't used one,
Yeah,
but
I have used those. I have used like wands that we can shine like outside of the mouth or, in different areas. I'm a huge fan of red light. I have a red light panel right there. I love PMF mats to help
oh
recharge the
yes. Yes, I
stimulate
love it.
healing. It's one of my favorite. I feel like you should be on a PMF mat every day after your surgery. Yeah, I love making sure we support the body, but I like gadgets too. I think they're fun.
Yeah, me too. I love the gadgets. I know we could do a lot of free
I think
stuff.
so much free stuff, right? And as long as we are sleeping, breathing, moving our bodies, those foundational pieces of health, getting good nutrition, bringing in some different healing modalities to optimize, I'm all for. But we can't use those as a replacement for morning sunlight, our sleep, right? Building resilience in our nervous system, all the things. But I do like adding some other things in for sure.
Yeah, because I know I've noticed a lot of people are using it for their face, the mouth, this and that. I'm like, I hope you're not just relying on that for the sun. You're really going out to the sun because we could get caught up with all these biohacks and this. Hold on now. Let's listen. Grounding mats, I get it. Grounding sheets now, right? All that stuff is extra, but don't make it a crutch. Go outside, touch the actual dirt, right? With
Yes.
your feet, with your hands, the trees, smell the roses, like get some sunlight at the right times, of course, and so that you could get your circadian alignment back because most of us are not aligned with the earth anymore. And that's another issue you probably see yourself, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy
So,
to move away from like the things we should be doing every day, right?
yeah, the free things. I love the free things. So I'm all
So,
for getting up early. Even though I'm not perfect, I tend to sleep in a little bit too long and I wake up, oh, I missed the sunrise. Darn it. I'll try it tomorrow. But the sunrise is the most important. I'm a big proponent of the sunsets. It's easier for me, but the sunrise is more important because it starts up the day with, you know, getting the infrared in there, the eyes for eye health, skin, and of course, adding to better sleep quality at night when you start early with the easier light, right? The lower light. And instead of just going out straight at 12 o'clock, midday, and suntan. Oh my God. That's why people, have issues with, well, I don't want to go out to the sun because I'm going to get burned. Well, you got to know the dosage and the right timing. So, yeah, that's very important. So now that you have this book out, you have, like you said, people around the world are reading it and learning from it. So there's also not just practitioners, but you have patients and clients. What have you seen as far as that shift that's happened from your manual with your audience?
Yeah, I would say the biggest shift I am hearing is, wow, I was never taught this in school. And now I actually have like tools and information to actually implement this in care. And I've just seen so many practitioners shifting their practice to this more whole body approach. And the excitement of seeing the change in a patient's healing after implementing some of this work is just so powerful. And I feel like hearing those stories, because I remember when I first got started, when we would see like the tissue look so much better, or our patient was so much healthier and felt so much better. So exciting. And it still is so exciting. But getting to witness other practitioners like having that same paradigm shift, really getting those different results for their patients, and the excitement behind it is just so empowering, so inspiring. So I think that's for me like the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes you proud. Feel, oh,
Yeah,
that's
like a
awesome.
proud mom when I.
Yeah, and then you know what? For practitioners too, if you're listening, you don't have to do it all yourself. We don't have to be jack of all trades. There's so many integrations. You could specialize on your thing you're already doing. For example, if you're the dentist, you could always, again, I come back with the dream teams. Bring your own dream team together, and you set it up where you bring your patient in, you're going to do your work, and you're going to refer them to this other practitioner that's going to help you with the gut. The other practitioner is going to help you with your fascia. The other practitioner is going to help you with your lymph. All that could come together. You could create a nice dream team, and some people will bring, if they have a brick and mortar, if they have an office, and they could actually set up a team there where it's all like a regenerative health clinic. Those are very popular now. The patient comes in and you have everyone in there and you don't have to do it yourself. So it's not more work for you, in other words, if you set it up right. So
Mhm.
that should be something that's exciting for everybody. Well, Amber, let me ask you this. I like to go into what I call the my rapid fire questions, right? So it's
Okay.
really just going to ask you a quick question and no thinking. Well, quick thinking. Of course, you have to think.
Okay.
Why would I say no thinking? But quick thinking, first instinct. I'm going to ask you probably about good 4 to 6 questions. All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
Very easy. Here we go. The first one, morning ritual that anchors you.
Lately, it is getting outside in my garden and seeing what's growing with my
Oh,
tea, my like, mineral cocktail.
that's awesome because obviously we're summer and the spring, summer. So the garden is a huge thing right now.
Yeah.
Okay. One non negotiable for oral health.
Um, I would say optimizing your saliva, making sure that we have good quality, quantity, and optimal pH.
Okay. Wow, that's awesome. I didn't think of that. I'm gonna have to ask you. I'm gonna throw a question in there. How do you do that? Optimizing saliva. How do you bring that up more? Like, a lot of people experience dryness, so
Yeah.
that means there's not enough saliva. Correct?
Yeah, exactly. So, saliva is one of the most important things in our mouth that doesn't get talked about enough. But I would say we want to make sure that we have hydration at a cellular level, right? So, we need sodium and potassium to regulate that cellular hydration. So, we want to make sure we have enough trace minerals in our saliva. We want to make sure we have enough calcium, phosphate, magnesium to actually remineralize our tooth structure, right? Because we naturally have this demineralization and remineralization process. When we think about salivary flow, right, enough saliva, we think in dry mouth, we think about how can we actually stimulate salivary flow. Biggest thing we can do, build resilience in our nervous system because our nervous system regulates salivary function. So those are some big things. And then just thinking about the pH, making sure like that's important for frequency of eating or snacking, right? Every time we shift the pH to a more acidic environment, we see more breakdown. So nasal breathing, right? Making sure our mouth is shut because our pH becomes more acidic with mouth breathing. So it's complex, but our saliva is so important. So there's a lot of different things I would think about there.
Yeah, that's something that's easily overlooked by most people for sure. That's harming them. That's for sure. So that's one big habit to pick up is focusing on the saliva
Yeah.
volume or
Yeah.
and it's as simple as okay, hydration starts with hydration, electrolytes. You mentioned trace minerals in your water. That already there from the start.
Yeah, exactly. That's a perfect start. Add minerals to your water,
Hmm.
like making sure we're getting enough. Even just add a pinch of good quality sea salt to your water. Lots of different things that we can do. Tongue scrape. I'm sure you love that in Ayurveda, right? Tongue
That's what
scraping.
I was asking you to see if that was one of your habits. That is one
Yeah.
of mine. Of course, I wake up in the morning and the tongue scraping begins. I do use my copper tongue scraper and I don't overdo it. Like some people I say like 100 times. What are you doing? Oh, it's a practice. I do 100. What? Just a
Yeah, no,
few. Take it easy now.
just be like that.
Right. Okay. So, what's your favorite way to reset after a stressful day?
Ooh, after a stressful day,
Which is probably
I
every
would
day for everybody.
I really think it is getting outside, probably going for a little walk or hike with my dog and my husband, cooking dinner, making like a really good meal.
Wow, that's unique because most people no longer do the cooking dinner
My
relaxing.
favorite.
I find it relaxing. It's funny because I love to wash the dishes. Like, why do you like to? I don't know. It relaxes me. I just wash the
Yeah.
dishes slowly and then I start thinking and relaxing. So that's one of my things is washing the dishes after dinner instead of putting them in the washing machine. No, I like to wash the dishes. It's really weird, but it helps me.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this last one. What does aging with intention mean to you?
I would say it is just being proactive in health and really just always realizing that it is journey, right? There's no destination, there's no stopping point, and always listening to my body and listening to like getting more information and just always being proactive with it. Making sure that I am doing the right things, making sure I'm nourishing, moving my body, being around the right people. I think that's
That's true.
huge. So I think it is just like always being a part of that process for myself, always showing up for myself in that way.
Yes. So that's being around the right people is very important. That has to do with the energies, the frequencies, the vibrations that we don't see. We don't see. You can't see it, but you can feel it. Be aware of that. So awareness, alignment, all that good stuff. So let me take you back. I like the legendary time machine question that I asked. Let me go back with you. Well, you're going to go on your own, your time machine, and you're going to go back to the 18-year-old Amber, and you're going to have a couple minutes with her. What is one piece of advice you would give this youngster Amber, 18 years old?
Wow. I would say use your voice, show up, like be okay being seen because I think for me I was always a very shy person and didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I think it wasn't until I actually found my voice and was able to share information and, show up fully, like that's when you can make the biggest impact in your life. So I would just say like having that confidence earlier on would be just like something I would recommend for her.
Yeah, that's powerful because listen, we're here, everyone's here for a purpose. And if we learn from youth, from our young days, like, hey, there's no need to be shy. You just go out there and give it your all. We're all unique. We all have something special to give. Look at yourself. You discovered with your manual, like around the world, people using it and you're seeing results and it's like it makes you so happy. It's oh my God, I have this huge purpose. I'm so happy I released my abilities, right? My genius, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Because if I would have been shy, stayed shy in a corner somewhere, I would have never wrote my manual.
Right.
I believe we all could take advantage of an individual's genius because we all come with something to give to the world and we could lose it because that person was stuck. And sometimes it's emotional trauma, right? Or the fear. Part of it is your lineage. Like sometimes we bring things over from our parents
Oh,
and we need to
yeah.
be able to break that. So
Right.
yeah, that's awesome. It's simple what you just said. Like, yeah, like, don't be shy. Get out there. And you did it no matter what. You're still very young. So that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, where can people find your work? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so they can
And
find me on Instagram at Naturally Amber White. My website, naturallyamberwhite.com. Those are the two places that are probably the quickest to find me.
the resources that you have. Well, on your Instagram, I believe you have a website there too, right? Where they could go in
Yep,
there and
naturallyamberwhite.com. So that's every way that you can work with me, whether you're a practitioner or you're a potential client. So everything is on that website.
so if you're watching this, you already see it right there. Naturally Amber White on Instagram. Okay, well, Amber, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. I know your time is very valuable. You have a lot of wisdom there. And once people start seeing your work, they're going to realize, oh my God, we got to get on that oral health quick. And that's what I'm saying. Practitioners are going to hear this like, that's right. We don't think of the oral health. Let me call Amber. Any words you'd like to end for the audience to pick up on, like a tool or some tips?
Yeah, I think I said it before, but I think a big thing is, just being an advocate for your own health and really just like being able to take in new information, I think is probably one of the most powerful things. As far as oral health goes, I feel like obviously that's what we're talking about. I think one of the biggest things that you can do for that is create a ritual around it. Make it something that you actually look forward to doing. So many of us kind of have it as an afterthought. So I think if you get up in the morning and you put on your guided meditation or your frequencies, maybe you set up your red light and you go through your routine, you tongue scrape, you do all the things. I think building a ritual around it is key. And one last thing, aloe juice for oral health is one of my favorite things that I
Okay,
never
I like
that I
that.
talk about. But in order to help with the tissues, I think a good swish and swallow with that is a cool thing to add to your routine that can support oral and gut health. So always want to do things that target more than one area. And that's just an easy one you could incorporate tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, killing two birds with one stone, or hundreds of birds with one stone, pretty much with the aloe. That's right.
Yeah.
That's a great tip right there. Okay, well, to the audience, thank you for listening in. If this episode helped you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. I think everybody does. And remember that aging isn't the problem. Aging without the intention is the problem. That's where we start having issues. So keep that in mind. Share this episode. And thank you so much. And thank you, Amber, once again.
Thank you, Art. Thanks for having me.
Peace.